Start with our three of our speakers, which I really want you to pay attention to, and then we'll go over some important policies and compliance issues that we will need to very carefully review before we get any of you started on tutoring this quarter. So first off, I'm going to introduce Professor Robert Grimlock. He is our faculty athletic representative, and he is the founding director of the Writing Place here at Northwestern, and a faculty member, professor in the linguistics department.
Thank you very much, Susie, and thank you. I am indeed the faculty athletics representative at Northwestern, and that means that I represent Northwestern among a group of faculty at the Big Ten Conference and sometimes on the national level of the NCAA. My work here at Northwestern, as was mentioned, is that I direct actually the broad Cook Family Writing Program that includes the graduate Writing Place as well as the Writing Place. Some of you may know one, some of you may know the other. And also a number of courses and other kinds of writing opportunities for students. Also a professor in the Department of Linguistics. I see the university a fairly broad lens through which I look at the university, and the athletic department is a department and a set of programs I'm proud to represent, both in the conference and nationally. It's a complicated and, to be honest, a difficult time in big-time intercollegiate sports. Northwestern works hard to keep its balance institutionally, and part of that work is work that you do in supporting student athletes and students. I'm going to say just a few more things before I wrap up, but let me ask you, having introduced myself, let me ask you to say who you are and what the discipline you represent in your work with student athletes. So let's start here, and we'll just take it as the way you are.
I'm Julie. I'm a senior, and I'm studying mostly biochemistry. I'm Marisela. I'm a graduate student in screen culture, so I work with the RTPF department.
I'm Andrew. I'm a graduate student in political science.
I'm Arturo. I'm a graduate student in political science, and I mostly work in social science.
Hi, I'm Felipe. I'm a PhD student in the Spanish and Portuguese program, beginning my third year.
Hi, I'm Christy. I'm a PhD student in hearing science, and I tutor primarily stats and such.
I'm Owen, third year undergraduate math major, but I primarily tutor writing.
Hi, I'm Pauline. I'm a student tutoring French and music.
Hi, I'm Michelle. I'm a senior undergraduate, and I'm tutoring mainly chemistry and math.
I'm Adam. I'm a sophomore undergraduate. I'm tutoring Spanish history classics.
I'm Riley. I'm a junior in chemistry and Latin.
I'm Sarah. I'm a senior neuro Latin and psych.
I'm Johnny. I'm a junior. I study econ math.
I'm Allison. I'm a sophomore at econ, French, political science, and intro to math.
I'm Moeen. I'm a PhD student in civil engineering. I'll be tutoring stats and engineering analysis.
I'm Andre. I'm a junior studying industrial engineering. I'll be tutoring languages and introductory engineering courses.
Hi, I'm Sophia. I'm a senior chemical engineering major. I'm doing languages as well.
Hi, I'm Alexei. I'm a computer science junior. I'll be teaching computer science courses and then other language and intro to mathematics.
I'm Caroline. I study journalism and economics, and I'll be teaching
I'm Michael. I'm a senior chemical engineer. I'm tutoring physics.
I'm Joe. I work tutoring writing across the broad spectrum of classes.
I'm Holroyd. I'm a sophomore majoring in MSS. I'll be tutoring math and econ.
My name is Sai. I'm a junior in mechanical engineering. We'll be teaching engineering analysis.
I'm Josh. I'm a senior at MSS, the stats student. I'll be tutoring stats and
Hi, I'm Vincent. I'm a junior undergraduate. I'll be tutoring econ courses.
I'm Whitney. I got my PhD in English at Northwestern, and I'll be tutoring English and writing.
I'm Arnold. I'm a senior tutoring statistics, math, and Spanish.
I'm Ava, I'm a senior studying physics and astronomy, and I tutor physics and astronomy.
I'm Bradley, I'm a master's student in education, and I'll be tutoring math again.
I'm Ashley, studying biomedical engineering, and I'm tutoring engineering analysis.
I'm Dee, I'm a graduate student, I'll be tutoring chemistry.
Hi, I'm Melissa. I'm from the history department, the PhD program, and I'll be tutoring history and writing.
I'm Chris, and I have my PhD in cognitive psychology.
I'm Ryan. I'm a graduate student in mechanical engineering.
I'm Elizabeth. I'm the graduate assistant working with Suji. I'm doing my master's in higher education in SESP.
I'm Laura. I'm a Northwestern senior, and I'll be teaching tutoring economics and business.
Hi, I'm Faith. I'm a sophomore studying chemistry and chemistry and social.
Thanks very much. And what I want to offer you in a few minutes today, and those of you who've been here in previous years have heard me before, I know this. And what I want to offer you today, though, just for a few minutes, is two formulations that I often share with students who are new to Northwestern. But truth to tell, privately, they're part of what I say to myself as I start a new year after many years at Northwestern. Here's the first one. The first one is feel welcome. That sometimes takes a little bit of intentional work at Northwestern. So if you're working with students who are new to the place, you may have a significant role, actually, in helping students feel like they're part of this. That this is their place from the beginning. There's not a probationary period. And then it goes a little deeper. You know this if you've been at Northwestern as a student. It's not unique to Northwestern, actually. And that is that you can feel this quiet sense, maybe even private, that you're a bit of an imposter. They think I can do this, but I'm not sure I really can. And app talks don't do it. Quiet, gentle, yeah, we can make this work. Let's work on it together. That can do it. And I think it's a deep part of feeling welcome at this place. So that's the first. The second, though, doesn't cut against it, but it goes a little further. And that is that I encourage students, whether student athletes or simply students at Northwestern, to respect the challenge that you're giving yourself. And to recognize that it takes time to build some success with the challenge at a place like Northwestern. And for student athletes, it seems to me there are three core values that they'll come up against often, but more often actually than that, come to respect and embrace, but can make life tough. The first one, easy to say, sometimes the walk is harder to walk for some students, and that is straight up integrity. Don't cut corners, don't you? My experience with Northwestern students, student athletes or others, isn't that they intend to cheat, it's that they get squeezed, they get into a tight spot. Not enough time, not enough sleep, hurting a little bit, maybe physically, and look for the way to get it done. It doesn't really honor the integrity of the place. And you're going to have a role in helping someone keep his or her balance when times get tight. And you too have to make sure you're real straight about what the framing of integrity is academically, not just at Northwestern, but any place. And one of the formulations that I offer you, that I offer my colleagues, is one way to respect and help student athletes is not to help them too much. And sometimes you'll hit a bit of what may even feel bureaucratic to you. For example, when students get a take-home exam and it feels to them like they can simply get the sort of support they're accustomed to getting with a paper assignment, if it's an exam, you can't work with the student on that piece of writing. And this can be clarified, you can say more, but you want to be straight up about this. Yeah, you can get in trouble yourself if you're not clear about it, but it runs deeper than that. It is how to help students find their way with academic integrity and this integrity more fully. It is not hard to formulate this in ethical or even moral terms, but there's a kind of another dimension to it too. If you want to get the value academically out of this place, you've got to run your own wind sprints, metaphorically speaking. You've got to run your own exercises. You've got to get in shape yourself. Right? So really important, and a role that you will have, you'll bump into, is to help students keep their balance when times are tight and honor the integrity of the academic side. I think you also have a role if there seems to you to be violations of other kinds. Aaron will speak to you a little bit later about the extensive way in which intercollegiate athletics is regulated and want you to honor the system of regulations, some of them tedious, some of them really crucially important. But you got to do it. You got to walk that walk yourself. And I ask that you honor that from your point of view as well. So integrity one. Second, of course, is that Northwestern has as a core value for student athletes, for all students, and certainly including student athletes, is to provide the opportunity for a strong academic experience. Not the same as simply graduate. There are ways to get to graduation without quite having a strong academic experience, almost any place I know. Right? And so, one way or another, in your role, your job will be to help students get as strong an experience as they can get in what you're doing in tutoring. And I think it's important. It's a way in which I regard you as straight-up colleagues in the work we do, right? To help students step up to what they've got in front of them and do as good a job as they can. In the writing place, which is one part of the writing program, one of the formulations we have is you're not really working with the piece of writing, you're working with the writer on his or her piece of writing. Right? It's actually a small-sounding distinction with a big difference. And you'll be there with whatever you're tutoring. We're working with the learner, the historian in making, and not just the results of a test in the history course. The other part, Goofy's way of conceiving when times are tight, and that is to help students find some pleasure in their intellectual work. What's interesting about this? What's fun about it? What jumps here? What's worth spending even a little more time on than you might have to in order to get over and get by? To do a little bit of that with student athletes and all students that you've been working on, and yourself as a student. When the crunch time and the quarter system gets so tight. Integrity, we've got strong academic experience, and the final one I want to mention briefly is the idea of health and safety. You might think that's a little remote from your work. The truth is, student athletes, maybe especially, are really stretching themselves physically. And if you pick up a vibe that somebody's stretching over a boundary, either being asked to or at his or her own will, moving into a place that is not healthy physically, you ought to give a heads up to the people that you're working with and who are overseeing the tutoring program. If you get a vibration somewhere that somebody's being abused somehow, or in a tight situation they shouldn't be in, you ought to give people a heads up about it. So there are lots of key dimensions to health and safety, because you'll be working in close with students on their academic work and in their making their way at Northwestern. We ask you to be colleagues and pay attention. And let people know if you see something that troubles you. Having said that much, then I swing it a little bit and I say, so for you, respect the challenge you've given yourself to do this work. And then finally, feel welcome. I'm glad you're here. It's your place. Thanks a lot.
Professor Goma. Our next speaker is Kristen Kane Herbison. She oversees our entire academic and student development unit at Northwestern Athletics. She oversees the NCAT tutoring program, and she is the Senior Associate Athletics Director. Kristen.
Hi everyone, welcome. Some of you I've met before and a lot of new faces, so happy to see you all, and I'll reiterate some of Bob's comments as well, but hit on a couple points that I just think are really important. I want to begin tonight by just saying thank you. So our student athletes are achieving some unparalleled academic success in comparison to their counterparts at other universities. And I think that's happening for various reasons, but I want to say thank you for the part that you're playing in that. So on average, every quarter our student athletes have a GPA over a 3.3. They have in the top 3 in the country graduation rates, retention rates, eligibility rates. Those things don't happen by accident. So they happen because our coaches recruit student athletes to come to Northwestern who respect the challenge. They know what they're getting into. They want to address it head on, just like they do their sport. I think they understand the value of the education they're getting here, and they're committed to finding ways to do as well as they possibly can. But I also think they're successful because we provide them with wraparound support. So their coaches know as much about what's going on with them academically as their athletic advisors do, and I serve as one of those athletic advisors. But we also provide resources to them like tutoring. And as we meet with them, so we start meeting with recruits really early on. Sometimes, you know, it used to be, we'll change a little bit, but it used to be, you know, even when they were in 8th grade, we would start meeting some of these students. So we would know them for 4 or 5 years before they ever got to campus. And one of the things that we're always talking to them and their families about through the recruiting process is the great benefit that we have to provide tutoring for them. And so I thank you for the part that you play, for the effort that you take to really provide thoughtful tutoring to our students and to work with them on the individual challenges that they have. It's not always easy. We know, I work with them as an advisor, so I know that they can be tired and cranky and all of that, and so we appreciate the time that you take to really make your tutoring sessions meaningful. They appreciate you, so at the end of every academic year, we get feedback from our student athletes about the programming and the resources that we provide, and one of the things that they always talk about is how appreciative they are of the opportunity to receive tutoring for their courses throughout. So thank you for what you're doing. That being said, as the person who oversees this whole department, I also want to say that you are not the only means of support for them. Right? And so I say that because I want to make sure you understand that you should never feel pressure to do things outside of the rules. And Aaron's going to talk a little bit more about that, and Bob alluded to it as well, but you should know your limits and know your boundaries. And that's really, really important to make sure that we're maintaining that academic success, right? So all those wonderful numbers about the top graduation rate in the country and high GPAs and all that are meaningless if the integrity isn't there, right? So if we're a fraud, that success means nothing. And so we are going to do it the right way every time, all the time, and that means following the littlest rules to the biggest rules, right? So we know you're not writing someone's paper for them, but the take-home exam thing, make sure you know it's a take-home exam, right? So not every professor is as clear about that on a syllabus, but you need to make sure that you're asking the questions to know that so that you can follow that rule. If you have concerns, if a student's asking you to do something that you know is outside of your comfort zone and your boundaries, talk to us about it. If you are ever contacted by anyone in our athletic department that is not Shuji, Elizabeth, or myself, you need to let me know that, or let Shuji know that, okay? So no coach should ever be calling you and asking you questions about a student's tutoring session or anything like that. We have rules for that, and they know that. But let us know if that's ever happening. We would also ask that you're not communicating with faculty members about students. We try to have really clear boundaries because you are an athletic department employee. They know that the only people that are going to be communicating with them are the athletic advisors directly assigned to those students. They know who we are based on our, we're assigned to them and advice stream and all that. So we're going to ask you to follow some of these rules, but there are reasons behind it. And it's to protect your job and your integrity on campus and your role as a student on campus, right? So if you're involved in an academic integrity situation, it could also impact your ability to remain here. But we also want to make sure that we are giving our student athletes every opportunity to be successful on and off their competition field. So we're going to ask you to follow those rules. And then like Bob said, if you see something, say something. That's kind of a theme that we're kind of discussing on a regular basis in the athletic department now because of things that are happening at other universities. We can be more proactive with our rules and our regulations and the way we communicate and the way we, show our care and concern and empathy for our students. So make sure that if a student seems really, really stressed, more so than normal, put it in your tutor report or shoot Shuji an email. If someone's so tired that they can't stay awake in a tutor session, we need to know that, right? So some of it is a first-year student who's just trying to figure out how to balance all of it. But it could be something bigger than that too, and the more we know, the more we can help. I will tell you, and I really appreciated Bob asking you all to introduce yourselves because we read your tutor reports. So those of you who are returning tutors, we read your reports. We read them every day. Every single advisor reads every single tutor report for their student. So it's important for us. We talk about the tutoring feedback. We talk about how they can make sessions better, what more they might want to ask for in a session. And when someone writes a message in there about this student, really couldn't focus today for this reason or that reason, those things are important to us and it helps us be better advisors. So we ask that you continue to do that and continue to communicate with us. If there's things that you need, like as a tutor, I need this to be more effective, talk to us about it. I'm not saying it's a guarantee that we can always provide a resource or software or whatever materials, but we're going to try the best we can to make tutoring as effective and efficient as possible. So again, thank you. Please communicate with us. anytime you need anything, anytime you have any concerns about our students, you are a huge part of the reason why our students are so successful, and we're happy that you're here with us again this year. Thanks.
Our next speaker is Aaron Hosman. He is the Associate Athletic Director for Compliance.
Part of the problem with going third is that I think a lot of my stuff's been talked about, but appreciate your attention for a few more minutes. I'm going to reiterate a couple things that Bob and Kristen talked about, and then talk about a couple other issues that may be a little bit more specific to my area, but I'll reiterate what they both said and say thank you. Hopefully you can't hear that enough, but we really appreciate the role that you're playing with our student athletes. There are a lot of people around our athletics department that are here to support our student athletes. We tell them that as administrators over and over again. And, I hope they take advantage of the hard work you guys are willing to put in, because it does mean a lot and helps them out a lot. You guys are an important role, obviously, in their development. You're also an area where it might give somebody like me a little bit of heartburn, because I've seen issues in other schools that involve tutors crossing the line with student athletes, and that causing not only a problem for that individual student athlete, but for the department and the institution as a whole. So my role and my staff's role in the athletic department is to try and help people navigate whatever their role is, whether it's coach, student athlete, staff member, faculty, and help push the department forward, but do so within the framework of the NCAA rules, which, as Bob said, can be kind of crazy. There's 400 pages of rules that govern Division I. Most of it has to do with things like recruiting and playing practice season, how those are structured. But there's a lot of regulation over the benefits that student athletes can receive. There's the academic support that they can receive, there's scholarships, things like that. So again, our role is to help the student move forward, help the coach move forward towards that goal of a successful career for the student, but stay within the framework of the rules. The best way that we do that is to encourage people to ask before they act. So you have 4 of us here that are resources. You'll have more people in the academic services unit that are here to help you figure out the right way to do whatever it is. So if you have a concern at all, that something may be in the gray, please ask us first before you move forward with it. That really is a good approach. It helps you avoid compliance landmines that will cause an issue for both you, the student, and for me. Academic integrity, we've talked a lot about that. That rises to the level of an NCAA infraction if it leads to a change in eligibility for a student. Obviously, way more important to that are the institutional kind of restrictions in that area. So it will cause problems for you with Northwestern. It could cause problems for you. It certainly would for the student. So just be really careful and respectful of those regulations. And please ask if you have questions at all about that space. FERPA and HIPAA, hopefully, are 2 rules that you guys are well aware of. They apply to you as students and as citizens. But these are 2 federal laws which protect the privacy of individuals. You are naturally going to learn some information about the students you work with, whether that be their major, their GPA, their academic eligibility. You might learn about athletic injuries, athletic eligibility, some things which people outside of the athletics department, outside of that student's team may be interested in knowing, reporters in particular. So really important that you respect the privacy of the students and not share any of that information with anybody that's not supposed to be asking you about it. Really, nobody should be asking you about it. The student can share information with you, that's up to them, but you should not be sharing that information with anybody else. Bylaw 10 in the NCAA manual is a short one. I mentioned 400 pages of rules. Bylaw 10 is only 2 of those 400 pages, but it's probably the one that carries the most weight, and that's the ethical conduct bylaw. It has a couple points that I want to make sure you guys are tracking on. One is an obligation to cooperate should there be an investigation of any kind. So just it probably would be me, if I ask you questions about your work with a student, really important that you provide honest and complete information to me. I hope never to have to do that. The same thing would apply to enforcement staff from the NCAA or the Big Ten should they come in and ask any questions. The other thing that is included in Bylaw 10 that I want you to be aware of is the gambling restrictions. So as Kristen just mentioned, you guys are athletics department staff members by serving in this role. And as such, you are beholden to the NCAA's rules on sports gambling, which is pretty much a blanket prohibition on sports gambling of all kinds. So that applies to traditional bets. You might place in a casino on the outcome of a game. It also would apply to fantasy leagues, March Madness pools, anything you're risking money or items of value on. in hopes of gaining a reward based on the outcome of an athletic event, it qualifies as gambling under the NCAA rules. It applies to college sports, professional sports, anything that the NCAA sponsors a championship in, all versions of that sport are off limits. So it would apply to you playing golf with your friends, you betting on the outcome of a Masters, let's say, or a college golf tournament. All of those are prohibited. You will sign off on something about that today, but just please keep that in mind as you move forward. This is a space that's changing, right? The laws around gambling have allowed for more legal sports betting, even if it is legal and is not permissible for you while you're serving in this role. So please keep that in mind. The last thing I want to talk about quickly is just extra benefits. So I mentioned, the NCAA rules regulate kind of what sort of things we can provide to student athletes. There's a lot of stuff that we as an institution can provide. It's important that go through the proper channels. Things like their athletic scholarship, sports medicine support, academic support, your services. That is a permissible thing that we're able to provide. But it's really important that you not provide benefits to the student athletes that you're not authorized to. And really the only thing you're authorized to provide are your tutoring services. This can cover things from as crazy as providing a textbook for a class. You should not do that. They have either textbooks through their scholarship or they're required to buy those on their own. It could apply to rides. It could apply to loans. Basically, like if a student comes to you with a need for something, you should send them back to the academic services staff or to our office. There are ways that the university can help with almost anything, but it's really important they go through the proper channels. So I think that is the gist of the things I need to cover. Again, just biggest takeaway, ask before you act. You got a lot of resources. If you are at all uncertain whether something is the right thing to do when you're working with our students, please ask first. We'll help you figure out the right way to approach whatever situation it is you find yourselves in. But thank you for your help with our student athletes. Thank you for helping protect our institution and making sure that we move forward in a compliant manner. That's really important to us here at Northwestern. We're proud of the way we approach athletics, and we want to continue to be able to say that. You guys will be a big part of that as we move forward into another year. So thank you for your time today. Appreciate it.
So can everybody take out the NCAT tutor reminders? It's inside the packet that Elizabeth passed out to everybody. Okay? Professor Gunlock and Kristen mentioned the importance of our take-home exam policy, right? So if you look under individual training, and towards the bottom of that first half section, there under the take-home exams and quizzes, could anybody read out the reminder there about take-homes and exams and quizzes? Anybody read that out? Volunteer? Go ahead.
As a reminder, you are not allowed to work with the student once the student has a take-home exam, quiz, or paper in their possession. The students must meet with their professor or teaching assistant for help on this type of work. If a situation of this nature arises, please let me know ASAP and direct the student to his or her professor.
Okay, so that is one of the most important policies that we have in place. So if any student, sometimes again, professors are not clear about this, but if any student that you tutor, you go into that session and you see that the student has a take-home exam in their possession, okay? Take-home exam there, right in front of them, you have to end that session and cancel that appointment, okay? We'll give you prep time credit, we'll give you preparation time, but you have to end that session and let me know what happened here, okay? Just email me that they had their take-home exam. Because we need to know that, because then we'll be able to alert other tutors who are in a similar situation as you, okay? So, in order to avoid this, there's one rule that you have to follow, okay? When you get the initial tutoring appointment match, right? When you get that appointment saying that you have been matched with a student, please contact the student within 24 hours of your match, what you should be doing in that first communication with that student is, what are they? Yep, go ahead.
Is this a take-home exam?
Yeah, or take-home exam. Yeah, you can say that as well. But more importantly, I think you have to ask for the course syllabi. Okay. In that first session, you have to ask for the student's course syllabi. Okay. And when you get that course syllabi, look through the course syllabi and see when the exam date, the take-home exam, is released and when it is due. Okay? And during those times, when the take-home exam is released, up through the submission date, you're not allowed to meet with the student. Okay, this is designed to protect you and the student athlete from any type of academic integrity violation. So that's the first thing that you should be doing, right? Is to look at the course syllabi, request the course syllabi from the student, and look to see if there's any take-home exams. Now, oftentimes, not often, but sometimes professors don't follow the course syllabi, right? And they might release the exam early. If that's the case, take a look at the exam, make sure that it says midterm exam on top, right? If it says exam, midterm, quiz, those kinds of headers should be a red flag. You should not be tutoring a student in that class if they have that in their possession. Okay? So make sure to check that. You should also not be assisting the student with quizzes, right? And you should also not be assisting students with any type of assignment that the course professor has labeled as the student must work on it alone. Okay? So that's something that you should be very careful looking at. Okay? Now, if there is any questions of what the type of assignment can be categorized as, right? Whether it's a midterm or exam, it should be pretty straightforward. Anything that is labeled a midterm or an exam should be something that is off limits. But if you have any questions about the wording, please let me know. Okay? Better to ask than to act. Okay? Ask before you act. That's the cardinal rule. One other point that I want to emphasize here is that when you're working with a student on a homework assignment, you're definitely not allowed to, say, here, this is the answer to the homework assignment, or here, this is how you complete the homework assignment, right? As Aaron mentioned, the purpose of tutoring is to make sure that you're encouraging the student, making sure that the student understands how to do the homework assignment, but you're not the one who is completing the homework assignment. So everybody understand that distinction, right? Of completing assignment versus you assisting the student and helping him or her complete the homework assignments on their own. Okay? Well, that's another important role. The other rule is that some of you will be serving as writing tutors, okay? Any type of writing tutor assignments, okay? You take a look at the prompt, you make sure that it's not labeled as a take-home essay, because students oftentimes confuse a regular essay assignment and a take-home essay, right? Take-home exam essay that's labeled as a midterm. So students get confused on that, so please make sure that you're not accidentally working on an essay and finding out later that, oh, what it was a take-home exam. Okay? So make sure that you're also looking for that as well. We have a policy in place, as Kristen mentioned, that we never allow our tutors to contact faculty or department administrators. If you need to secure course syllabi, homework problem sets, course readings, go through the student or go through me. It'll be quicker if you go through the student and ask for a course material, problem sets, homework assignments that you could use to prepare for your session, right? But we strictly prohibit tutors from contacting course professors, even if that course professor is somebody that you've taken courses with or that is your advisor. Please refrain from contacting that course professor. Okay? You could always help the student contact his or her TA or course professor. That's an important skill to learn, right? Students oftentimes do not know how to communicate with their course instructors. You could assist students in that, but please do not do this on behalf of the students. Okay?